All right, welcome everyone. We'll give it a few minutes for people to join. I think I sent we are starting email to everybody. I think I sent that out, yeah. So everybody's got it. All right. I know it's a later in the day one than usual, so hopefully folks will be able to come out. Okay, there's Jacqueline.
Welcome, Danielle. Welcome, Jacqueline. Oh, Jacqueline's still joining us.
Still joining.
Welcome, Jacqueline. Welcome all. Welcome everyone.
Hi, Edna, welcome.
No, thank you.
A moment. I'm coming in. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Oh, wait, there's a full screen. Let's try that. There you go. Yeah, that's better.
Perfect.
All right, so I'm going to dive in. There we go. Okay. Yeah, that's working. Okay, cool. All right, so welcome everyone. So our July, and of course we got the big news of the Bitcoin breaking new highs again. And hopefully we're going to keep on seeing that month after month. That'll be great. Um, So we'll go through, take a look at what's happening in the US and Africa diaspora with adoption and opportunities. And then we'll have Isaac will be going through trading analysis. And if you guys coins you want to request that you want to just look at some trading analysis, we'll do that. And then we're going to take a look at the project, which is one that I've been working on, which is the Bitcoin Residences Africa and HyperBitcoinization. And we'll get some perspective there. And I guess you have some perspective on that as well, and happy to have you share as well as we go into that. So let me go on without further ado. Hopefully others will be joining shortly. Okay, that is not perfect. Anyway, all right. So Bitcoin blazes past 118,500. I don't know where we're at right now. I think we're on 117.5. A lot of people are projecting before the end of July we should be well over 120,000. So hopefully that is the case. As we always talk about, definitely recommend holding your Bitcoin, not getting rid of it. And if you need, cash flow from it, instead, use this collateral. And there's lots of Bitcoin lending options out there now that you can use. And, it's a great way. That way you keep the Bitcoin for the future, but you can also get the cash flow that you need as well. So that is something that is a great opportunity. And obviously, the higher the price goes, the better that is for everybody. Anybody wants to stop and ask questions, by the way, feel free to just stop, raise your hand, or put it in the chat or whatever it is, and we'll be good to go. And Isaac, you can let me know if there's any questions that I'm missing. Okay, cool. Let's see. Yep. All right. So these are the top performing altcoins. This is a month view, I believe. We got to about 35%. There were a couple that really were like several hundred time percent, but don't have those on here. So Stellar, Bitcoin Cash, XRP, Algorand. Okay, there we go. Exact number 17.45, reserve rights, Bitcoin SV. I don't know why anybody's still buying that, to be honest with you, but This is one that they were trying to say they were going to have the true vision of Bitcoin. And so they created this other fork of Bitcoin, but I had a little bit for a while, but I got rid of it. Decreed, Cardano, Bonk, basic attention token, around 10%, Pepe, and StoreJ. And I think Isaac will be doing different coin analysis shortly, so you guys can check that as well. Here we go. All right, so we talked about the three different scenarios, right? One is the regular 4-year cycle. It aligns with US elections, so it's easy to remember. And this is kind of the analysis I did with AI last few weeks. Basically, in that case, we're looking at like an 80% drawdown. So you got to be ready for that because it really draws down in the bear market. When it goes down, the price is going to generally stabilize someplace around 5 times the previous peak of the cycle before. And it kind of projects basically by around 2028, 2029, we're looking at about a $500,000 Bitcoin, $500,000 Bitcoin, right? Now, super cycle scenario is basically looking at what we call, because we have so many institutions, we got so many people coming in terms of governments and countries and businesses and Wall Street, right? And hedge funds, all these people are coming into Bitcoin. And so that would potentially put us in a super cycle. In a super cycle, what we look at is that instead of the traditional 4-year cycle, we get much less drawdown, like 30, 40% from the peak. And I actually have another slide that actually shows what those peaks will probably be. And ETF inflows are going to create a floor on the price because we got so much institutional Wall Street money. And it projects basically by 2027, we're looking probably around $750,000 for Bitcoin. And then we have the other scenario, which is what we call HyperBitcoinization. Usually that would probably mean we have to go down to the super cycle first. And in HyperBitcoinization, what's going to happen is you get rapid adoption because everybody is trying to get in. It's kind of game theory, right? Where everybody's like, well, I can't miss out because if I miss out, then I'm not going to have any of this valuable asset. So everybody, which is starting to happen already, is starting to get some quietly, some people openly, right? So exponential price movement. And then we are looking at nation state treasuries diversifying into Bitcoin, which is already happening, and projects. Basically, we're looking at $1 million plus within a 24 to 36 month. So that is a scenario that could happen. We would have to hit a super cycle, in my opinion, for this to happen to get the hyper Bitcoinization. But obviously, to be realistic, it is still possible that we could have a regular 4-year cycle, even with all the activity. So you got to be ready for any of the scenarios potentially. Anybody have any questions about that? Because
Quick
these are like the,
question.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, quick. So my question then is going to be, how would you look to protect against what that 80% or whether it's in the regular cycle, protect against that 80% drawdown, or in the super cycle, protecting against the 30 to 40% drawdown? Like where would you kind of put that money to hedge against the Bitcoin?
So there's a couple of ways you could do it. In previous cycles, what you do is you kind of sell off the top, right? And then you can put money into land, you can put it into fiat, which is not a great idea because fiat's losing value, but you can put it like into land or real estate or something else, right? And then that would diversify you. I feel that I previously made a mistake in the previous cycle because I
Yeah,
sold off a lot. And now it's much harder to buy that back
right,
see the prices are much higher, right? So in some ways I
right,
regret selling off as much as I did. Um, Now the other thing that you can do, obviously psychologically, you should be ready for the fact that we probably will have some kind of a drawdown, right? That's likely.
right,
There's the 80% scenario, 30, 40% scenario, unless we get like total hyper Bitcoinization, we're going to have some kind of drawback most likely, right? So
right,
drawdown. So what you want to do is make sure that, you're not over leveraged if you are lending or borrowing, against
mm,
Bitcoin. If you're not, I think you're good. For me, I'm selling off a lot of altcoins, either to get,
okay,
Bitcoin or fiat, because I feel
hmm,
it's kind of like the, if you guys remember, some of you may remember, some of you don't. We had back in like 2000, there was the dot-com boom, all these dot-com companies, okay? And it was like, that's
right,
where you got Amazon, you got Google, you got, all the big players, Facebook. But what most people don't remember is there was like, I mean, thousands and thousands of dot-coms. There was brooms.com, pets.com, this.com, that.com, Mesa, every dot-com you can think of. And most of those companies are, where are they now? They're gone, right? They're out of business.
yeah,
And I really think that's going to be the same scenario with most altcoins. So we have whatever, like 20,000 altcoins, probably more than that. I expect that 95, 99% of those are going to go away, right?
Right.
And you're going to end up with like the top 100 or 200 that actually have like some real utility, really do something. So for me, I'm moving most of my alts into Bitcoin. I'm expecting that there will be a drawdown, trying to make sure I'm positioned for that. And then, but this time, I don't think I'm going to be selling off Bitcoin because there's a good chance of this scenario, the hyper-Bitcoinization. And if that happens, what's going to happen is it's going to be so expensive that there's just going to be no getting it back again, right? And I don't want
Right.
to be, I
Right.
don't want left out of the market because I think I already made that mistake the last time, right? Where I
Yeah.
sold off a lot that it's too expensive to really buy it back easily now. So, I don't
Yeah.
want to make that mistake another time around, basically.
Yeah, the multiples are pretty exponential with it. It's kind of
Yeah.
scary. What kind of interest rate are you seeing on, I guess, like using borrowing against Bitcoin?
So if you want to get like a stable coin, those are usually sitting around 4%, maybe 5%.
Okay.
If you're doing stable coin borrowing against like USDC or USDT against Bitcoin as collateral. That's what
Okay.
I've seen. Yeah. And you can do it a lot of
So,
places. I think Coinbase is offering it. You got decentralized like Aave. You've got, I mean, there's a ton. Lending. There's a bunch of different platforms that are doing this now, depending
okay.
on where you are. So it's a great way. And I mean, this is what most wealthy people are doing. They don't sell their assets. They borrow against them, right? So
Absolutely.
to me, it's the right way to do it.
I agree. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Mhm. Any other questions or thoughts about the scenarios? All right, let's go on. All right, so these are the prices that we can expect to see depending on the scenario. So the peak Bitcoin cycle scenario, basically, if we hit 120,000, 180,000, we're probably in that traditional cycle. We should probably see like an 80% drawdown from the top. If we are in the super cycle, we'll probably see a $250,000 Bitcoin this year going into the new year. And again, even if we have like a 30, 40% drawdown, we're still going to be sitting over whatever 125K Bitcoin, right? So that's a nice scenario. I'm hoping that at least that's what happens. And then if we hit hyper Bitcoinization, it's basically going to go up to the point it's just not coming back down again, right? So there will be there was like, oh, next cycle, there won't be a next cycle. It's just going to keep going up, basically. So we've got those scenarios. But to me, this is different than the previous times in that in the previous times, I think there's some wisdom in like, hey, sell at the top, then buy it again. Sell at the top, buy it again. But we just don't know if there's going to be that opportunity to buy it back again. I hear some people saying they will, but we don't know, right? I mean, when you have, the whole White House in the US, the Congress, Wall Street, everybody's buying this, BlackRock, you name it. I don't know if it's going to go down in that way where you're actually going to have the opportunity to buy back in like we did before, right? So to me, I would hold, but not financial advice. All right, so U.S. regulatory and congressional updates impacting crypto. We have the SEC, which was really anti-crypto, but that's before the current administration, and it's shifting over to CFTC for the oversight of crypto. But the thing is, it is becoming very accepted by the government now. The Genius Act, it temporarily stalled, but it's moving forward now. I should have changed that title. So it's actually moving forward, which is going to make the stable coins basically legislated in the US, where everybody's now using the stable coins. And then we have the Trump administration's position, which is, of course, they are very positive on it and they're signaling for everybody to start using it, which is affecting, I think, not only the US, but I think it's affecting the whole world, right? So I talk to people across Africa, across the world, and people who are across the US, people who are like, I don't really care so much about this. All of a sudden now they're starting to look at it. And obviously the prices moving up is another thing that's also doing the same thing. So very positive on the regulation front. We might actually see this pass next week. And if it does, the Genius Act, if it passes next week, then I expect we'll probably see another price boost, if not explosion, coming up again. All right. So the stablecoin regulation, we talked about the Genius Act, right? So this is going to, and some people think that they're going to try to also use it for CBDCs, which is central bank digital currency. They may, I'm not sure, but we know that it's going to give access to people across the diaspora, across Africa, around the world to dollars, where it may be very hard if you are in different countries in Africa to access dollars. It may be very hard in Latin America to access dollars. And with the with these stable coins, it'll make it much easier, right? So not everybody can really access it. And when they see the regulation, they're going to be, people will probably be a lot happier because they're going to say, okay, you know, great. Now it's backed by the US government. It's backed by, this regulation. And I expect we'll see a lot of people diving in, even though a lot of people have been using stable coins for a long time. And that scroll. There we go. Okay, so the one thing I want to call out on this slide is just that we can see, even though it's almost invisible compared to the price of Bitcoin, but the amount of volume in Africa has steadily been going up in terms of how much trade volume there is for Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is getting used. So we can see here Q2 of 2025 looks around almost 2 billion in volume. There's a lot of volume happening across Africa right now. And Diaspora, if you add that, it's going to be a lot more for Bitcoin. So even though you can't see it easily because the Bitcoin price is really way up there, but it's still doing quite well.
Good question. Are these
Yep.
trades being done like through like African exchanges? I'm not sure if that's a good question, but
Yeah,
do
it
they have
is. It is.
African
Yeah.
exchanges or okay, this is African exchanges.
Binance, I think Binance is the biggest one. There's also other ones
Yeah,
like Bitfinex, and there's quite a few others. And anybody who's across the African continent, you can comment if there's others I'm forgetting. South Africa has a lot of its own exchanges, actually. South Africa is really ahead of the game on this.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of peer-to-peer, I think, in Nigeria. But Binance is really they're like they're the 1,000-pound gorilla. They're huge.
Yeah,
A lot of
Binance
volume.
is definitely
Yeah.
#1 in Africa.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Coinbase is basically the US, and then the rest of the world, Africa is Binance for sure. So,
Binance. Okay.
yeah. So almost any time that I send like crypto or something like that to digital assets to like folks that are working with across Africa, usually they have Binance, and then they're also able to use that
Binance.
to use like a fiat gateway to off ramp and use it there as well.
Okay. Okay. I don't know what that part means. I'm still learning about this.
So basically, if you have it in your account, right? So let's say you've got the stable coin, you've got Bitcoin, and I send it to you.
Yes.
You want to be able to use it in your local economy. I mean, in a few cases, you may be able to pay with Bitcoin, but that's not very common still. So it's
Okay.
more likely
Okay.
that you're going to need local currency. And to get local
Right.
currency, you need either like a peer-to-peer where I go and exchange with somebody, which is sometimes dangerous. Where you go and exchange, like, hey, give me dollars, I'll give
Yeah.
you the coin. Or the other option that you can do is they usually have like connections to banks or M-Pesa or something, which is like a gateway. We call that a
Okay.
fiat gateway, and that allows you to then bring
Okay.
in currency.
Okay.
Same thing in the Caribbean, same thing in Latin America, Southeast Asia. You go through a fiat gateway.
What are the top gateways in Africa? Who are the top gateways there?
I know a lot of the team I had in Ghana, they were using like they were able to connect with Binance to their local banks, and they were able to
Okay.
transfer that way.
Okay.
I think in Kenya, people have some kind of a gateway with M-Pesa, which is their mobile money. I don't
Okay.
know if any people knows about other gateways. So
Yeah, like you said, John, it is through local mobile wallets in each country's region, like M-Pesa. You'll mainly find across East Africa region. And also someone's just popped in BitNob, Yellow Card. Yeah, there's lots of local different mobile
Oh,
types of
that's
wallets
nice.
because what we find in some of the African countries is getting a
Yeah.
verification to connect your bank to your centralized trading platform like Binance or any of the others. So you end up doing a lot of trading peer to peer. We did do a session
Right.
of peer to peer, I can probably reach out to Brother Malik to see if he can do another session just to show us. And I know I've
Yeah,
said
that'd be
before, but
nice.
I will definitely aim to try before the end of this year to do a live session on transacting peer to peer,
Yeah.
so people can see the how easy it is, how to mitigate risk, um, check how to your transactions gone through, checking the blockchain and everything else that goes around with it.
Right.
It is very straightforward, and once you've done a few transactions, you'll be very unlikely to do transactions through traditional finance because you'll see the speed and
Right.
the costs and how effective it is.
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Great questions. Any other questions before we go on? let's keep going. All right, did I get, let's see. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so South Africa, of course, has been doing really well. They are a leading market across the continent. Obviously, they've got a lot better connectivity to the banking system as well. So they're connected into a lot of the financial system. They have been setting up their own CBDC, which I'm not a big fan of CBDCs, but they've been looking into that. I think along with Nigeria and some other countries. They got about 20 crypto exchanges, is my understanding right now, and a lot of DeFi platforms across South Africa. So South Africa is definitely one of the places I was several years ago before the pandemic. I was in Cape Town at one of the meetups that they had there for East Cape Town, and really thriving community that's really very, very much moving forward. Tokenization, all that stuff is happening in South Africa. So South Africa is definitely a leading market across the African continent for this. And then the Central African Republic, just highlighting really quickly, they've been doing their Sango coin. They adopted Bitcoin second, I think, after El Salvador to adopt Bitcoin as a nation. And of course, the IMF and World Bank and these folks try to kind of say, don't do it, because that's going to allow them basically to pay off a lot of their loans and come out of debt, most likely. But the bottom line is they've been doing quite well with that, and they've got their Sango coin is backed by Bitcoin as well. So they have a two-tier system. There are also kind of new initiatives like their crypto island, things like that as well, and tokenizing natural resources, which I think is a really great opportunity, by the way. A lot of people across Africa and the continent don't have, and throughout Latin America as well, a lot of resources, but they don't have the money to actually exploit and use those resources themselves. So if you have tokenization, you can use tokens, and that tokens put some money in their hands so they can do the mining, or they can do the farming, they can do whatever it is, and then they can actually utilize those resources they have, versus a situation now where it's sitting there, you're sitting on top of all this wealth, but you can't really do anything with it. All right, so tokenization is a big trend that's coming now. All right, and then broader overall. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, with the tokenization, when you exchange I think it's like, so you're giving them a coin and then they're using that to then being able to invest in their business, right? I guess, like, how do you get like paid, or how do you make money from that investment?
Yeah, so the way that will work basically, the best example I can give you right now, there are quite a few gold-backed tokens, right? So they're gold. And I know we had one when I was in Singapore that we used, and that one was a K gold or something. Basically, it's tied to gold in a vault. Now in Africa, it's more likely it's going to be gold that's in the ground in a mine or something, right? But the bottom line, so we're gonna speculate and say, look, we think we have about this much gold, so we give a valuation on the gold for these tokens. Each token gets like valuation. I think for those ones, it's like an ounce of gold, but it might get valued differently, right? Now, when they do that mining, maybe you lock it up for a little while so they're able to, use the funds, and they say, look, in 6 months when you've done some mining, we're going to unlock a certain amount. You go, okay, now, you can use those tokens, which are now worth the same as an ounce of gold, right? So maybe 30% of tokens are free. And you can go sell, you can exchange those for Bitcoin, you can exchange them for a stable coin, you can also exchange them into fiat, right? So now you can start to take it, because tokens are very liquid. You can really get access to it, no problem, right? So that is the idea, is that those tokens, and we're looking at that for a lot of projects. In fact, you'll see later when I talk about the projects we're working on, that idea of tokenization, I think, is really going to bring a lot of wealth to Africa diaspora, basically the global South in general, right?
Yeah, that's pretty nice. I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. All right, cool. So, all right, let's see. So for African Americans, diaspora, right? So we have a lot of remittances coming from Europe, coming from Africa, coming from the US, even coming from different parts of Asia. And it's very easy to do those remittances because, if you were to do, either try to use banking, it's almost impossible. I can tell you that. Getting money on and off the continent, I'm sure many of you know that. It's very difficult. Everything is super scrutinized. And then if you're going to use like a money wiring service, the fee is like 20%. It's like predatory. So compare that to the cost of sending Bitcoin, which is like a few cents or a dollar to send it. It's great for remittances. Same thing for stable coins. And then investment and growth, right? Diaspora investors are increasingly funding ventures across the continent, which is really good. I've been seeing quite a bit of this. It was a Nigerian-backed venture capital firm, ladies from the US, and they're doing a lot of projects all across the continent. That's happening all throughout Africa. And then knowledge exchange, right? So like Ethiopia has been doing all their stuff with the Renaissance Dam. We looked at it last month. We're doing Bitcoin mining, and you have a lot of diaspora knowledge, which is coming back to the continent in this area and helping with that as well. So I think it's really great to see, that kind of bridging those digital divides, which is really what we're all about in these meetups as well, right? Connecting people all across. In the Caribbean as well, I think it's a really great thing because, it allows people to have, their currency be able to connect and do a lot of economic dealing with other areas very without friction as well. And then, of course, China has been investing very heavily across the continent. They were involved a lot with that Ethiopian project, by the way, for the mining on the Renaissance Dam. And while their approach is that they focus on blockchain, quote, they do have Bitcoin mining happening there, but they don't necessarily do very much with the tokens, although I think they're rethinking that because a lot of people are using the digital tokens, especially the stable coins. So it looks like they may be trying to roll some out, maybe that through either directly or through BRICS. 65% investment growth across the African continent, including what's going on in Ethiopia, 24 African nations, and 8 regulatory models. One of the things that I think it gives a few options for Africa diaspora to be able to partner with. But the thing that is obviously we like to be careful of is that they are still looking to, get the best end of the deal, right? So there's a lot of places like Sri Lanka that have lost their ports or infrastructure based on the loans. So it's not like just being altruistic. They still are doing business and, they've still been obviously, they've been getting the better end of a lot of those deals. So I think there's good and bad here, but this is definitely taking place. And of course, I'm looking at it from the African diaspora perspective. All right, so HyperBitcoinization. Does everybody know what HyperBitcoinization is? Anybody know what it is? Nobody? All right, so HyperBitcoinization is basically when Bitcoin, instead of me saying, hey, how many dollars is this? I want this going to be this many dollars for a boat or a plane or whatever, or trip. Instead, people are going to ask you how many Bitcoin is it or how many Satoshis, which is a fraction of Bitcoin. So we're going to basically start pricing everything in Bitcoin, which is very feasible. In fact, Fink, the guy who heads up BlackRock, said, because of what's happening with the dollar and the debt crisis in America, it's very high potential that we end up with basically a global Bitcoin standard. So when that happens in Africa, and I really want to actually the next one, which I like better, right? If Africa doesn't catch up with this trend and global Africa, so I'm talking about all diaspora, economic marginalization, right? Because not only one generation back in financial technology, that puts us 2 generations back. Because while we're still trying to get onto the old banking system, the rest of the world has moved on to a digital asset system. God forbid that happen. But that would be a big thing if it didn't jump on the bandwagon of hyper-Bitcoinization or get ahead of it, right? Widening wealth gap, because again, if you look at the value of a Bitcoin, if you were holding a Bitcoin, you were fortunate enough to do so for the last 8 years, you went from like $1,000 Bitcoin to basically now $100,000 Bitcoin, right? And I expect we're going to add another zero in the next 4 years or less. So big wealth gap is going to widen here. Talent exodus, right? Because people are going to go where there's, the digital assets where they can get, that access to that money, to that capital, right? And then reduce global competitiveness. And I hope this does not happen. I hope that we have the other scenario here where we have opportunities for growth, right? Financial inclusion, if we get ahead of this as, global Africa, financial inclusion is going to be, a good opportunity for us. Remittance efficiency, like we said, so cheap, so easy to send funds back and forth. Inflation hedge, meaning that even if I'm sitting in Nigeria, I'm in Zimbabwe, I'm wherever I am, I don't have to worry about my currency going down in value. All I have to do is just make sure that I'm holding the Bitcoin, right? I'm good. Economic sovereignty, because again, like El Salvador, Central African Republic, you are in great shape because you're actually holding on to something that is valuable and it keeps getting more valuable, even though the IMF keeps on coming and saying, hey, don't hold on to that, but it seems to be doing pretty good for them. Economic sovereignty, we talked about innovation hub. There's lots of innovation opportunities, and then cross-border trade, right? And the idea of cross-border trade, it's so easy. where you had to go through 5 banks, 10 banks, 5 intermediaries. With Bitcoin, I can send it to you like before I finish this presentation. You'll have it, right? So that just makes it so much easier. And most digital assets are the same. So not missing out on hyper-Bitcoinization is really key, I think, for the future for global Africa. And in fact, we have the opportunity to leapfrog because whether you're on the African continent, you don't have full access to banking, or you're even like in the US or elsewhere, and they have redlining, where you have a lot of, African American communities that don't actually have full banking access, right? You can't get mortgages or loans. So jumping directly to this and leapfrogging ahead into Bitcoin makes a lot of sense for our communities. Cool. All right, so that's hyper-Bitcoinization. All right, so jumping ahead, since there's a lot of mobile, even if you don't have a smartphone, there's still feature phones that can actually still use Bitcoin and use digital assets. Sustainable mining, in fact, like M-Pesa, things like that in Kenya, I think you can use those on any feature phone, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Sustainable mining, because there's so much renewable energy, water and wind and sun, geothermal all across Africa. It's so easy. Well, it needs a little investment, but there's so much of it that can be used for mining and Bitcoin mining, which is basically minting and printing your own money at that point. Remittance innovation hubs, we can have those as well throughout the continent, and decentralized economic models where you don't have to have everything going through one group or one area, but we can have everybody getting that access. So very big changes in the winds for that. Okay. So summary outlook for Africa, right? The opportunities for diaspora, which is really connecting, investing, because the big challenge for diaspora has been that really, lack of kind of access to capital. But there's so much capital in the ground across Africa, that if we connect with that, we can really do a lot of things. And in Africa, the big thing has been, not being able to really utilize the resources for ourselves, right? But rather having to get other powers to come in and kind of do that for us. So now if we are able to connect to that, you can actually get the capital, you can do your own mining, you can do your own, all these things, and then you can utilize that. So very key for diaspora opportunities and for the continent. Critical partnerships, obviously the collaboration is going to be very key. And continental innovation, we talked about South Africa, Central African Republic. These are really good opportunities. And then regulatory influence, obviously US, China, as they're kind of progressing, that's going to have an influence. But I do feel that we should have our own kind of Pan-African approach to this that's not only driven by what's happening in the US or China. Any questions there, thoughts before I go on to hand it over to Isaac for a bit? Cool. All right, Isaac, I'm going to hand it over to you, and then I'll come back later with the other project part.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Just want to check everyone can hear me. Thumbs up would do great. Cool.
I could hear you.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. So just bear with me one moment. It's just loading. So I've got a bit of a lag here. Good to go. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at sorry, John, if you could mute, John, thanks.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm going to be looking at Bitcoin and a few of the altcoins. We've been covering this over the last few webinars that we've had, and within the group as well, in the Wakanda group. If you haven't joined the Wakanda group, we'll post a link in the chat so you can join and share with other people as well. So as everyone should be aware, Bitcoin made a new all-time high and that all-time high was 18,882. So, oh, sorry, just go back a step. So I'm on TradingView for people who are not familiar with this platform. So TradingView, you can view different assets across different sectors, whether it's foreign exchange, forex, stocks, crypto, you name it. Anything that can be tracked and traded, you can view it on TradingView, and you can view it on TradingView for free. Or they've got some paid packages that offer different benefits, more charting, analysis, more data. What you'll find with the free version, which is the one that I'm on at the moment, is if you're doing active day-to-day trading, it's not ideal because there will be a lag. It could be a lag within seconds, 2 minutes, and if you want to execute a trade, you do want something. When I was trading more actively on a day-to-day, I was on a more on a premium one because you needed to know what the real time price of an asset was if you're going to be executing a trade. But if you're trading day, weekly, monthly, the free version is more than enough. Especially you don't need numerous indicators. If you're more of a seasoned trader and you're looking for not necessarily the best, what's it called, price to get in. You want to get in that certain region and then obviously follow the market with the direction that you're expecting it to go in. Right, so Bitcoin. So we made a new all-time high, 18,000. So if you can see at the top of my screen here where the H is, that's H is for the high of this candle. And the high of this candle is 118,882. And the low of this candle, we're on a monthly chart at the moment. So this M represent a month. We'll go down to the weekly and we'll go down to the daily for Bitcoin. Other ones I'll probably look on the daily or weekly. But for Bitcoin, we're going to start on a monthly, always starting on the highest time frame. You can go to a high one, I think it goes up to a yearly one, but we're not going to do that today. So we're on a monthly, and I'll explain why you want. It gives you a good idea as to what the price is doing. I had said in the previous one, so this is the range that we was looking within, and I'll talk a bit why I've signaled this zone between let's say 108, 110, and the low was 80,000. Let's say 79, between 79 and 80-ish thousand. So we had price come through. So from November 2024 was even building up to from October, building up into November, it was extremely bullish, as you can see. We had price coming in and breaking the previous all-time high, which was set in April 2024, and then making a new all-time high, which was, if we look at the H, it was 99,660. So just shy of 100,000. But it was amazing. It was an amazing month. And prices more or less stayed within this zone of 110 and 180,000. What I had said in the previous webinar was I was not as bullish, and I'm still a little bit skeptical with some of the price and how price is increasing. And I'm keeping a very close eye because the volume for me still is not reflective of what the market is doing. And if you want to get into Bitcoin, and this is for people who are looking into investing in Bitcoin, I personally would not invest at this price unless you've got an extremely long-term view on it and you're looking to start dollar cost averaging down to as low as it possibly can go. Then yes, I can understand that. But even so, you probably still would want to wait for price to cool off a bit. So we're halfway through July, and we've made a new all-time high. And what you would really want to see is what is going to happen over the course of the remainder of this month. Are we going to make more all-time highs, or are we going to start cooling off? See what happens over the next 2 weeks to give you a bit of a clearer picture. So what we've had, if we just go back to the past, we've always got to look at the history of what the market's done. So this candle here was all-time high on the 1st of April 2021. And we made that all-time high when it went to So look at the H at the top of the screen, 64. So let's say 65K. Price came back up, came back down, it got rejected. A lot of people took profits. Market was just doing something that was unexpected, and then it was still fairly new. So you had a lot of negative news from mainstream media, just trying to spook people out of Bitcoin. Price came back up to that area. A lot of people took profits or thought, no, do you know what? It can't go any higher than that. It's crazy. It's not going to go any higher. This is the highest it's going to get. And we had a so back in, when was this? So October 2021, price came back up to test the all-time high, made a new all-time high, and then we dropped about, let's say, what is that? 70% from the all-time high from October 2021. So that's from October to November 2022. Price had dropped about 20%. Since the December 2022 to today, Bitcoin has done, what's that? Let's call that 670%. So you can see in the brackets there, you've got the 669. So that's from 1st of November 2022 to this month, we're at 660% gains on Bitcoin. If you just held and didn't do nothing, that's how much you'll be up on Bitcoin. But it hasn't been smooth sailing just up. There has been a very bumpy road, and people, you would not be blamed for getting spooked out, because if you're looking at Bitcoin was at 16,000 back in December 2022, and for it to go now to nearly 120K, it's not some people might have expected it, but a lot of people wasn't. So if you did manage to hold from then, kudos to you. And if you continue to hold, that's just fantastic. But what we want to look at, and this is one of the things I always explain to people, is I always look at the volume as to what the price is doing against what the volume is showing. And this indicator here is the volume profile. And what the volume shows us is, for me, it's still declining. Okay, so since then we've had price has constantly been going up, and the volume has been going down. So 1 second. So we've had the market has been going up, and the volume has been going down. So this is an opportunity to realize that because the volume will come back into the market, and it will come back into the market aggressively. This little pump that we're having now, taking up to nearly 120K, is not as aggressive as I was expecting. I thought that it was probably going to die down, but if it was going to go, we would just continue to go. But this volume profile is not reflective of what price is actually doing in the market. So there is some manipulation in the price, and there is like I said, there is a lot of bullish news on the market. Bitcoin's all over the news. Senators are talking about it, presidents talking about it, everyone's talking about it. So that for me is a time to be very cautious. Okay, you be very cautious, and you need to start planning and be more strategic in your entry or your investing in Bitcoin, and look for when the markets start giving out a lot of negative news, or there's a lot of fear in the market, or there's a lot of uncertainty, or there's just a lot of heightened news on scams that are happening, or people losing coins and stuff like that. That's when you probably start thinking, right, okay, this is when I want to possibly start looking to get into the market. As weird as it sounds, but it's shown true plenty of times. So like I said, the volume is certainly decreasing while Bitcoin is increasing. Obviously, Bitcoin is a slight anomaly, because obviously there's a supply that's a circulating supply that is also reducing, and you're not having the people who have been buying Bitcoin putting it back into circulation. Once they've got their Bitcoin, they're just holding on to it, and that's it. And as John has mentioned, a lot of people will look to hedge against the Bitcoin in the future. I'm just going to drop down to
Quick question.
yeah, sure.
So when thinking about an entry point, say Bitcoin starts to fall
Yeah.
today, right? But
Mhm.
would you think about entering at like after 40%, right? Because according to like the super cycle, that's that drawdown to expect. So would you start to enter after 40%, or are you
Yeah.
looking to maybe see if it goes beyond 80%?
If Bitcoin went down 80%, I'll definitely dive in.
Right. Well,
Um,
any point
I,
after 40%, or like what's that entry point for you?
for me, it's I like to. So I'll drop down to the weekly. I've got this trend line here, and I always, and I've said in the previous stream as well, that this trend line holds true, and I've seen it plenty of time on the lower time frames and the higher time frames. And what I continue to do is drag this trend line to see where it's going to find um, the equilibrium of the market. The market will need to balance itself out. Um, whether it's going to be around the 80K mark or it's going to come down to the 60K mark. That is the two key areas that I would be watching. What we've done now is broken above a key level. So I've just got to, I will get to giving you as close an answer as I can. I've got to quickly go back to the monthly just to show you the significance of the levels that we've broken above. So we've broken above this area. Now we're in no man's land. Price can do exactly whatever it wants, whenever it wants, and go as high as it wants. It's just going. It's onto it finds an area where people feel like, you know what, I'm good. I'm going to take significant profits, and then we'll start seeing the market to cool down. What we had here was, sorry, I've got to come back to this. When was this? August 2024. These few months between March and September 2024, sorry, was significant because price had broken above the previous all-time highs that were set in April 2021, November 2021, and no, February 2024, we broke above that in March. But what the price done was come back and test these levels and created a very strong support. So what we have here is a significantly key area of interest. Price was literally just in that zone, testing, waiting to see, is this an area people like to get in and buy? Are people defending it, or are people going to take profits and price is just going to tank? Um, and you can see from these wicks here is basically exhaustion in the market. The market was trying to go down, but people were just literally gobbling up the Bitcoin, and that the sellers eventually gave up, and price took off again in, so they say from, what's that, September. So from September to what we, that was, sorry, what month is that? November 2024. So we had a very strong support, extremely strong support that has been created here. So now price went up and we started testing this 110K region. Let me just let Malik in there. 110K region, and that was our resistance level. So what we want to do now to see what might be an interesting area of where we want to get into. If price starts doing the same things it done in 2024, early March to September, October 2024, and starts testing this area here where we broke above. We had an all-time high here in December. That was 108K. Came back and tested it in January 2025, 110K. Went back down, created a support here. You need to see the same thing happening. And that would then be an indicator as to say, are we going to literally hold this level or are we going to come back down? I am 99% sure we are going to either come back down to the 70K, 80K, sorry, region, or even as low as a 60K. But I will need to see as price is going along here on a trend line. Sorry. So let me see if I extend this. Let me hide this. So 1 second. Just getting these again in the way. I just hide these. So if we extend this, and I'll leave this exactly as it is until we're back on again. This is taking me to the 80K level. So the reason why I've got this is basically when price is touching the key areas numerous times, it more than likely will come back and test it. I could be wrong. It could be that the trend line should have been from here or wherever, but this is the trend line I decided to choose because I feel this area here. So I'm jumping back to the monthly again, is the most significant area. This all-time high here, this all-time high here, we tested it, broke above it. So this is the area of interest. If we draw a line here, so let's say the top of that, let's go for this wick. So what's that taking us? Oh, so bang on the line here. So we could possibly looking at entry levels of, I'll do the top of this wick. So the top of this wick is 73,660, and the low of this one is 74. I'll go for the 76. So was that 73,660? Right, okay. So I'm gonna go down to the weekly just to see 73,660. So that was an all-time high going back to 2024. We broke above that aggressively, and then we've got this. What market has actually done, which is interesting actually, I didn't actually see this, is usually where we have aggressive buying, you need to see the market needs to balance itself out in between these gaps here. You need to always have a buyer and a seller in the market with anything you're trading, whether you're trading bread, cheese, milk, crypto. You've got to have demand and supply. They have filled this gap. So we've had enough buyers come in and we've had sellers. So this area is actually being filled. So technically, we've got an equilibrium in that market. But there is this void here where we've just been going up, up, up. Yes, we had a few people that have taken profits and sold here, but then we've got this key area here from, what's the low of this wick? That is, so we look at the L at the top of the screen, 98,115, and in and around this region, so 86, 85,000. So it's still kind of the 80K region. So this area here where we broke out above is still basically the area of interest. So we would look for, I personally would be looking for price to come back down. So we go to all-time highs, we keep on going to the moon or wherever it wants to go to, it's going to come back down. And that I can guarantee you. And when it comes back down, we want to see what it's going to do in this region. Is it going to respect this region because people have stepped in and shown respect that this is a fair price to get your Bitcoin at, and we would and this area would be defended like it was defended here very well, and then we make another progress back up to wherever the all-time high is, or people feel like no, it's slightly overvalued, it needs to come down a little bit. And if it touches this trend line, I'm confident that we will break down below wherever that price will be. I'm not sure. We just have to watch and see what the market decides to do. But as we are now, I would be waiting, and I'll show you another reason for that is, and I've shared this in the group before, is the fear and greed index, which basically is a sentiment of the buyers and sellers in the market, what the market is saying. I just want to see, sorry, can you guys see the screen that I'm showing, the fear and greed index screen?
I think it's loading.
All right, cool. So we'll have a look at the fear and greed index to see what the fear and greed index is basically telling us the market is, the sentiment of the market is at the moment when it decides to load. I think I've got so many things connected to the internet now, it's just lagging. All right, while that loads,
I'll try refreshing it maybe. We can see your browser, but we can't see it. Maybe refresh.
All right,
Stop
okay.
refreshing. Yeah. There it is.
Can you see it now?
Yep.
So we're now in a zone of extreme greed. So this is not a zone you want to buy. And if you don't want to do any technical analysis, you're not bothered about listening to the news, you don't really care about what's going on, what Trump's saying, Elon's saying, Putin's saying, you're not bothered about any of that. You don't care how many Bitcoins Michael Saylor has bought or how many Bitcoins El Salvador have mined. Just trade by the Fear and Greed Index. It's highly reliable. When we go to, I think the last time we was on, we was the greed index was the fear and greed index was at greed. I think it was around 60 or around 50, 60. I can't remember exactly. If we get into, we're in extreme greed now. So when it gets to extreme greed, let's say we get into the late 80s, early 90s, that is when you want to just literally stay out of the market. And if you want to start timing how you buy in the market, you could say, right, okay, I will buy a little bit Bitcoin here. If it goes to extreme greed, you'll just wait. It comes back into this area. You might buy a little bit more Bitcoin here. You might buy a little bit more Bitcoin at 50, halfway line, buy a bit more and buy a whole load of Bitcoin when it goes to extreme fear. So when we're in an extreme fear, that's when I was talking about, they're talking about this is being hacked. And it's usually, someone might say they'll put a headline, Bitcoin's been hacked, but it might not even be Bitcoin. It's probably an exchange someone had Bitcoin on. But if you don't read into what the headline is saying and the text or the article itself, then people will just go that narrative. They'll screenshot that and be like, it's a scam, don't buy it. But while you're sitting on the sidelines, you've got the likes of Michael Saylor and all the other big hedge funds just gobbling up any small bits of Bitcoin they can. You buy and you can just buy little chunks up until you get to extreme greed. So this is where we're at now. We're going to be going into, probably next week we'll go into 80 if we continue going up. And if we go back to the chart, yeah, and if we go back to the chart, we'll see that I won't go too much into divergence because I think it was a little bit much for some people who are fairly new to Bitcoin and trading. But divergence was basically what I was telling you, where you're seeing the price is not reflective of the volume. So we get a bearish divergence because prices continue to go up, but the volume is going down. Okay, so that was a bearish divergence in that it is more into it's going into a seller's region, and that is reflective of the fear and greed index. 80s into the 90s in extreme greed on the fear index, the fear and greed index, we're going to see even less volume. And like I said, this is not reflective of to what is actually going on. And I've got another indicator here, which if you're interested in really getting into trading, you can probably look to purchase it.
I think I do have a quick question.
Yeah, sure.
So at that $108,000 mark there, how many tests would you have to see to then say, okay, no, there's gonna be another run there?
What you mean for it to
Yeah, for it to like
if it
bounce.
comes
You see,
back onto
like,
this level?
yeah,
Right,
for it to
okay.
come back down and go back up. Like, are you looking to see that maybe 2 times, 3 times? Because it seems like it usually do it about 3 times in some
Yeah,
areas. So
and that's it. You've read the market. You've read the market. So, and this, don't forget, we're looking on a monthly, and a monthly is a lot of data. So, so this was our resistance. So, it's if we wanted to create a strong support, we want at least 2 months of price testing this area. And what you'll
yeah,
see, if you look on the past, is when price wants to break out of an area, you see these long elongated wicks. But then here it got
yeah,
rejected. It got rejected.
right.
Tried to break up, got rejected. That's where you get those long lines. Here,
Okay.
at this price here, let's look at the 60K mark. We had a long a lot of people is try to sell down, but then the buyers slowly started coming back in, and you see there's long wicks here. So, and that was how many months? 1, 2, 3. So about 3 months before price took up. Here we had
Right.
1, 2, 3 months and price took up. So if we come back down and we get 3 months and it holds, I'll say there's gonna be a
Right.
continuation in bullish action. If we come back down and it
Gotcha.
starts breaking down, but what you would see is before that even happens, when you start seeing the price of Bitcoin call off, look for the first month when we start getting these red wicks, these long red wicks here.
Okay.
So you got 1st of April, we had a long red wick, it closed. So we need to see what July closes at. November 2021, that long wick. Let's wait and see what happens end of July. What was this one? 1st of December 2024. We had this long wick. People tried to come back in again. Sorry, Danielle, do you want to unmute yourself? I missed that.
Oh, yes, yes. When you were talking about the exchange with the scams, can you just kind of clarify for me what you're talking about? Because I know, like in the US, I think it's like 69,000 of complaints we've had, and it's like 5.6 billion in scams. So, are you kind of saying that's more so like propaganda, them saying that, or is it something else? Okay.
Yeah, that's because it's minute in comparison to what happens in the normal banking. I probably have to eventually. I don't know if he's on actually, but brother Malik, who's in the financial sector, and he probably can be more able to speak on scams and stuff that happens on traditional finance. But like I said, those articles are going to get pushed. Those it might actually be factual. That they are scams, but these are scams on exchanges because people are not protecting themselves properly on crypto, or even on their cold wallets as well. People would report a scam. So I think, sorry, did you say something? I think we've got a hot mic, John, if you can mute. So I would definitely say once we start getting into the areas where it's in extreme fear, you will see a lot more of those articles.
Okay.
And a lot more where people have been scammed or have lost money through they've sent it to the wrong wallet, or they've done something stupid, or they've created a token and then they've scammed people, which happens a lot. People get into high risk speculative coins, and then the developers or the marketers who were involved in it just do a runner with the money, and that happens. But then that goes down to doing proper due diligence on what you're investing in. So you're not going to invest in somebody who calls they're starting Walmart Premium, and Walmart have got nothing to do with it. You need to make sure you're doing your due diligence, even in crypto. It's just because it's a coin, it looks like it's going to go to 100x, 1000x, 10,000x. Who's behind the project? Are they visible? Do you have the white paper? Can you see their track records? Is there active community? So you've got to do the same level of research that you would do if you're investing in a stock. It's not any different.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Isaac, you're saying these,
yeah,
the reason why they're going to be pushing out this type of fear mongering is for them to kind of push the retail investors like us out of the market, for them to stop having. Okay.
100%. They've been doing it throughout, and you can see the amount of times that I could pull up like 100 articles where JP Morgan have said it's high risk, we won't be touching this asset, we will not be advising any of our investors to invest in it. And then what if they've totally gone and done the total opposite?
Right.
So China's banning Bitcoin, don't buy it. And the graph that John showed earlier on is like the country is one of the big investors in Bitcoin, holders in Bitcoin.
Right.
So it's the same narrative they've been doing all the time, and they know this is an asset class. Blockchain allows us to be able to get in early without having to jump through hoops. We can get in at extremely lower levels than we would be expected to be able to invest in. So we wouldn't be able to invest in a MicroStrategy asset because you need to be a seasoned investor, show all your certification, have all your insurances, everything else. No, here you can just literally switch on your internet, log into the blockchain, see what assets are out there, buy a few coins, and you're an investor. No one's going to tell you that you need to provide this document. You might need to do some KYC on some of them, depending on the project. No one's going to tell you you've got to wait till Monday when the banks open at 9 o'clock. You do it in your own time whenever you want, and you can track your assets as you want. So
Okay,
it's definitely just trying to push us out or not get us involved. And I think one of the biggest things that I'm watching in the blockchain, so I'm digressing a bit, is the real world assets, the tokenization of whether it be property, for example, or the NFTs, and being able to get in at a fractional share of an asset and still make the same returns you would do if you would be expected to come in with 100,000, 200,000, or a million. Where we've got a global audience of people, if everyone was, let's say we're going to build another White House, or Trump Tower, or whatever it was going to build, or Burj Khalifa, I can't even pronounce it properly. And all you needed to get in was 10 ADAs. And 10 ADAs is what a price of an ADA at the moment is 70 cents. And that was the entry level. You needed just 70 cents to get in, or you needed $70 to get in, and you are an owner of that asset. So this is where it's going to go. So all of those projects where you need to get in and you're required at a high level, it's all gonna go away. It's all gonna change, and you'll be able to get in at any level you want, as long as you're getting into the right projects and make the gains that you need to. Cool. So I've been going on a bit, and we might be going a bit over time. Any
That's okay.
questions?
I had a question also for you, actually.
Yeah, sure.
But we talked about all the institution adoption. We know a lot of these kind of large institutional and like nation states, they actually buy not on the exchanges, but they buy over the counter. So it's not
Yeah.
visible
Mhm.
in the transactions. How do you think that affects kind of like the projections that we're looking at here? Because I mean, there are a lot of those things that are happening not on exchanges, so it's not visible to us as retail.
Yeah, I don't know if I that's something I track enough to be able to really comment on. But one of the things I do know is that what I find is when they have to declare their balance sheets and their reports come out each quarter, is that or you find out I don't know, let's say Ford have now got Bitcoin on a balance sheet, or Microsoft have now got Bitcoin on a balance sheet. Every single earnings you're seeing, all of these companies have now got a, a digital asset on their balance sheet, and you're thinking to yourself, obviously we don't find this out too much later, or it can't be verified too much later. What that's happening on the market in regards to Bitcoin, I'm not 100% sure, and this is why, for me, the price doesn't make it's not reflective of the volume. Something else is happening, and obviously I know it's not the retail investors that's pushing the market up, but it's not. It just doesn't, for me. It doesn't. The maths doesn't add up. So that's why I'm extremely cautious at now. And like I said, if you don't need to be a technical trader or understand the charts, just follow the trading greed index. I've only started introducing that recently to our webinars because I think it's an easier snapshot for people to grasp, than trying to work out, oh, this has done a higher high, or this has done a lower low, or this is a bearish or hidden divergence. That's neither here nor there to you. What you want to figure out is, where's the best price for me to get in at? Should I buy now? Should I sell now? Should I hold? Or what should I do? Sort of thing. And if you do want to get onto this chart, you go into the monthly. You look at what the price is doing now. These lines here is what's called a divergence. And I didn't want to talk about it, but I just couldn't resist. I absolutely love a divergence because it's a clean indicator for me as to what the market's doing. And it's a bearish divergence why it's red. And like I said, it's just volumes going down, prices going up. What goes up comes down, and it will cool off. It's just a case of how high is it going to go. But just look at history. Exhaustion, price will go down. Exhaustion with the selling, price will go up. Exhaustion with the buying, you get red, it goes down. Exhaustion with the selling, you get the green, price will go up. That's literally all you have to do. Do the monthly or the weekly, any asset, let's do another random one. Let's look at ADA. Sorry, was there any other questions on Bitcoin? I'm just gonna before I wrap up on this, I'm just gonna do ADA because otherwise we run over time. No, cool. Same thing because ADA is a lot newer than Bitcoin. I'll do this one on a weekly. Yeah. So this one actually didn't do it here. Actually, you had well, it did. We didn't get a red wick, but we had the exhaustion in the market. We didn't get an exhaust. We had the exhaustion, but we didn't get the red wick. Technically, we should get a red wick here. So what will end up happening is, if it hasn't happened already, what's the price at the moment? Is when the price is going to go back up to revisit this level. I don't know what the projections are for ADA, but this level, there wasn't enough sellers here to take that candle out. It would definitely be revisited, but it's extreme. ADA is extremely bullish at the moment. Extremely bullish. We had the lows here. It's not gone any lower than that. It's respected this level here. What was that? February 2025 recently. Little wick here, and it looks like it's ready to make head back into. So here I've got another indicator here. So this red, all of this red is just like basically very bearish, very bearish. And what you'll see is, let me make this a little bit larger. What you'll see on this indicator is where this red shadow starts to basically fade away. It's showing that there's sellers are exhausted in the market. It comes back in, we get more selling. The moment this red shadow starts to disappear, it becomes more bullish. The less, so what we've got here now is the next time I think this will go, if this flips green, ADA is going to absolutely rock it. It's just going to absolutely just do something very crazy. It's just waiting for this red shadow to just basically start dying out. Sellers start getting a bit exhausted, a bit bored. They've done enough selling, and as soon as this flips green, it's just going to start doing some crazy numbers. Right, I can go back to Bitcoin just to take any last questions.
What about Solana? Is that Solana?
Solana? Yeah, sure. Let's have a quick look. Solana. So Solana we're starting a monthly. Yeah, Solana's it's an interesting because we always get a lot of technical issues with Solana, where there's an outage, and I don't really pay much attention to fundamentals. I literally just look at the what it's saying on the chart. And for me here is where we've had a lot of buy-in, and it's not reflective as to the sellers in the market. Yes, it looks like sellers stepped in here aggressively. I would expect price to come in and around this region just to balance the market out a little bit here. But it could be a case that Solana is done with that zone. I don't know. So this area is going to be interesting. Let's just go down to the weekly, sorry. Right, let's give you some prices for Solana. So, right, so $100. If we hold above this, if it comes back down to this $100 level, I personally feel like it will go down. I can't see it respecting this level again. It's tested it. Yep, people stepped in around what's that, 106, 105, took it back up again, all-time high. That was in Jan 2025. Had a divergence here, bearish, sorry. So it came back down, it got exhausted, back down to the $100 region. It's tried to go back up to the resistance level, when it broke down. So this is the support now, $100. So this is our I'm going to bring this down a bit. I can always draw that back in. I might do some charting on Monday evening after the market closes to see what it's looking at and do some new lines for everyone in the group, or some point this week and next week. So we want to see 188. So I would say, let's see what happens over the next few weeks. If we can, this resistance level can be broken. If this resistance level gets tested again and it gets rejected, then we might be looking for it to come back down to the $100 mark. But this is the zone that we're in for ADA, between 100 and 188. It is quite a big area, but it is what it is. This looks like this is only really tested. When was this? April. So April, end of March, April. Yeah, hasn't really tested it. I would wait and see. Our person would wait and see if it's going to come back down here. But because everything's kind of bullish at the moment, it might not even get time to do that. Let me look at my indicators down here. So yes, look. So this is showing. So it came. So that was April. It's still extremely bullish. There's hardly any red shadows showing that the sellers really were interested in taking any profits at this level. We've got a bullish divergence here. Price has dropped all the way back down to this level, which was 135. But the volume in the market last time it was in and around this region was a lot higher in the on the red side, so the seller's side. Here it's non-existent. It's non-existent, and it's still showing that it's extremely bullish. So if it goes back up to 188 and breaks it, all good. Then we might be going back to try and test the all-time highs that we had in, when was that, January?
Yeah, the two things for me for Solana, just looking at it, not the charts, but kind of qualitative, those technical issues have been kind of strange for a blockchain, to like all the technical issues it's been running into. But I have been seeing a lot of projects basing on Solana also, so it's very popular. So
Solana is
yeah.
extremely popular. I think probably one of the most popular blockchains that developers and newcomers are all building on, and that's probably why it's one of the favorite networks, is that it's easy to book and to build on, extremely cheap, very fast. But it just keeps on having these unnecessary outages that they don't seem to have fixed.
Yeah.
Hi, John. Hi, Isaac.
Hi.
Yeah. I just wanted to get your thought on Solana's future, given that, on average, you have over thousands of memes being created on the Solana blockchain. And most of these memes are just fraudulent, right? Pump and dump. So would that not affect, the future of Solana? Meaning, people would start saying, oh, Solana is, a scam blockchain. People just go and create, memes for pump and dump. And that could kill Solana. Just my thought, but wanted to know what you think about Solana's future if they don't address the technical issues and also all these pump and dumps happening on the blockchain.
Yeah, and it's a weird one because you'd feel that they should really put more emphasis on what the community, because obviously it's a community that suffers when these developers are coming on and making these silly meme coins, calling it whatever, but then if the market constantly feeds into it and trades with it, then for them it's I don't know, it seems like it's just business as usual. They haven't done anything to, I don't think they've done anything significant to safeguard investors to help them mitigate getting into some of these pump and dumps. Because literally every single day there's a new meme on Solana, or several. And within a week you won't see it's gone down 45%, it's gone down 80%. But that hasn't stopped people building on the network. So it's a very strange one. You'd expect the devs on Solana to do something to address it, but they've not done anything significant. There's been a lot of, there's going to be more due diligence and governance required to build on it, but people just find a way around it and continue to build on it.
So would you say from like a fear and greed perspective, then for Solana, you would say there's mostly fear right now in the market?
No, not for Solana. No, because
Okay.
people, it's not deterring people from building on it, and it's not deterring people from trading on these very, very high risk, volatile coins that are keep on popping up every single day. Something happens on the news, guaranteed you're going to see a meme coin built on Solana to reflect what's happening in the news. But then you also see very interesting projects that are being built on Solana as well that are going to stand the test of time. So it's a strange one.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, one more question. This is on Bitcoin. A lot of traders are now saying that Bitcoin is on a price discovery.
Yeah.
And a lot of technical analysis are failing. And what's your take on that?
Yeah,
and
well,
also and also the projections from other major institutions like Standard Chartered, Goldman Sachs, and all of those big institutions projecting Bitcoin will go to 125, 250,000 before end of 2025.
see, I don't, with me, I don't really follow the mainstream news when it comes to what they're saying around Bitcoin, because I know they've manipulated us in the past with telling us when it's a scam, you shouldn't invest in it, you shouldn't do this. It is on, sorry, 1 second. It is yeah, as you say, it's on price discovery. What I always do is the same way I've just charted here. I just look level to level. What is it price doing at this current price level? Where are we at? Have we created, has it hit a resistance level? Are people starting to take profits? Cool. I'll chart that up. I'll put a line to say this is a key, this is an area of interest. And I'll look to see where it broke that previous resistance. Is it going to come where it broke that resistance? Is it going to come back to test it and create support? That's my new price level. All we can do is literally take it from level to level. You can look at predictions. It's going to go to 1 million. It's going to go to $10, whatever. Just go level to level, week to week, month to month. You have to cut out the noise. There's going to be a lot of distractions. But ultimately, you just want to follow the money. So if you want to just forget, even if you just don't want to even look at the charts, you don't want to listen to the news, look to see who's holding Bitcoin on a blockchain, and we can do a session so you can look on the blockchain to see where the Bitcoin is actually sitting, who has the most amount of Bitcoin. So where we've got those charts, and this is the beauty of the blockchain, and I can start putting something together for the next session for next month, is what wallets are holding Bitcoin. And if you just say, I'm not going to listen to anything else, I'm just going to follow those wallets. Whenever they buy, I'm going to buy. Whenever they sell, I'm going to sell. And that's all you can do. You find the most highest or the top 10 Bitcoin holders on a blockchain and follow their actions in trading or buying. And what you can also see is they might have other assets that they're buying as well. So we can do a little analysis on certain wallets and how they're transacting, and you can just literally just copy them, and that's what you can do. You can copy them for the rest of your life, and you'll be as smart as they are as an investor. So if you're following MicroStrategy, if you're following El Salvador, if you're following any of the others, we'll look for the top 10, top 20, maybe. I'll see what I can find. I'll share it, and we can just track to see what they're doing, and then just rinse and repeat exactly what they've been doing over the last few years. Any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna stop. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, bro, how are you?
Sorry,
Hello. How are you doing?
So cut out there. Good. How are you doing, Big Dreams? So we've got some of our members from the Gambia Telegram group joining us. Thanks for joining.
I would like to talk about a very small issue about what you were just talking about right now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, about investing your money in Bitcoin. I would love for if you are interested in investing your money into Bitcoin right now, I would love everybody to focus on yourself and focus on the market, not based on people like technical analysis in the market, like people will be talking like Bitcoin is going there, Bitcoin is going there. You have to learn by yourself and focus on the market. Like you have to read what is happening in the market right now. You get me?
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you have to read in what is happening in the market. Is the money leaving the market or money is in the market right now? That's how you'll be investing. Like you have to invest in with the wires like the institutions. These are the people who move the market, not us. We are retail seller. You have to follow them. Like if the money is moving moving from the market, you have to be very careful because those are the people removing their money from the market. If they move their money from the market, the market is gonna relax. So when the market moves and you stay there, you're gonna lose probably. But if they move their money and you also move with them, probably you're gonna be safe with them. And if you see them putting their money in the market, you also follow them and put your money there. Probably you're also gonna be safe with them because you don't have that money to move in the market. Power to be moving.
Thank you for that.
The long time you have to be checking the market. What is happening in the market? Is the money in the market or how is the market going? And focus on that and leave the other technical analysis because Bitcoin is going there, Bitcoin is going there.
Your mic is a bit low, but yeah, thank you for sharing that. What I'm going to do, I'm going to hand over to John only because we've not got much more time left, and just want to go into the African Investment Group presentation.
Yep. Thanks, Ozzy. All right, so I'm going to dive into the first part of this. Some of you who are last month's meetup, you have seen. The second part, you have not. So I'm going to skim pretty quickly through the first part and get focused on the second part. We kind of added more detail around what we would like to do in terms of forming a group for African diaspora investors, calling it Prime African Investment Group. And our concept really is investing in these kind of Bitcoin real estate throughout the African continent. So those of you who remember from last time who were here, we have the idea of these residences. I'm not going to play the video again, but we had this Bitcoin tower that's been created in the Gambia. There's another one in Dubai, I believe it is. And this concept of these Bitcoin residences, they have two ideas. One is, they give more visibility because a lot of people think, oh, Bitcoin's a scam, Bitcoin, which it's not, because obviously otherwise the governments and institutions would not be investing in it, right? When people see physical real estate and it's kind of branded in this way, it then gives them the concept that, oh, there really is something real here to look into. Now, we really want people to have just like that visibility, that knowledge across Africa, diaspora, right, of this idea. I won't play the video again, but you guys will see that. I'll probably share the presentation slides as well. So you guys will be able to look at it later. And then we talked about the ideas that we have property tokenization, right? We want to be able to do smart contracts, allow people to tokenize and invest in the different from diaspora. So we're forming that group with Prime Africa group. And then local economic impact, hopefully creating jobs in local, like for instance, in Ghana, we've been talking to some local organizations that are working with Bitcoin in Accra, right? And we want to be able to contribute to the local economy in that way, as well as cross-border investment. And we already talked about how that works, where we're able to use tokens to be able to invest in whether it's mining or farming or real estate or different areas. Oops. Okay, and we talked about the last time that there are some maybe quick start Airbnb properties, kind of Bitcoin hubs where people are able to actually be able to, stay in them. We might stay in them ourselves when we're in different places. So we've been looking at Accra, we've been looking at Rwanda, looking at Kenya, South Africa, several other markets across the continent as well, potentially for launches. And what we're going to do is we form a group, is we will then look at which ones we want to start with first. We'll make some agreements, and we'll talk about the details of that shortly with some of the landowners, and then we're able to then be able to begin those projects. Yeah. And then medium complexity projects, which will be later. We talk about Bitcoin campus, Bitcoin living, etc. These are all concepts right now. They are not developed yet. So we'll be working with the group on that. And the strategy, of course, is tokenization of ownership. So people can bring in a fractional ownership instead of having to purchase the whole thing. So all of us can have tokens. We were talking about that a bit earlier, Antoine. the DeFi yield generation and also staking Bitcoin, as well as the mining aspects integration, so that it's very basically user-friendly for people who are in the digital economy, and project funding pipelines. We reinvest the yields that we get from these to develop more of these projects throughout the content diaspora. And we talked about also being able to bring in renewable energy and into kind of different villages and places where you may not have simple electricity, but the mining gives us the ability to have a revenue stream where then you can also bring that to these different areas as well. And we talked about most of these, which is why I'm really going quickly through this part. The next part is new. We've kind of gone into more detail over the last month. So looking at equity partners and equity tokens, and we're going to look a little bit more at that ecosystem of how we see it, how we see that working. So the idea here is basically traditional equity partners. Of course, we're going to bring capital, land, services. We're looking at partners and developing these networks right now. We have a pretty extensive network across the continent as well. And as well, partners typically play a long-term role in the project, but also blockchain-based equity tokens, which is what we'll have a lot of people who are kind of part of our group initially will be able to get those tokens, ownership fractional in the projects, and they're going to democratize the investment opportunity. So we will probably in the next month or two have kind of a core group where we'll start and then determine which projects. And I've been working, and I think that I won't, it's very late in Africa, I won't accept them, but there are different networks and landowners that we're talking to in order to get some land plots that will be available for us in each of the target markets. All right, so the key features for equity partners. We have basically contributing land, capital, technology. Like we said, we have partners that are going to be doing the mining, AI, and Bitcoin mining and providing computing for that. Services for the development. We have ownership structure. You receive a percentage ownership stake in the project with direct shares. And then obviously there's a sharing in the risk and reward for each of these and decision making. So we have what's called a DAO, Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And that means depending on the number of tokens you have, you can vote on decisions about, what projects we invest in, when do we take out profits, those sorts of things. And then the commitment level, typically long-term, high commitment roles, and this is for equity partners, and transferability based on shareholder agreement. So this is a more traditional equity partner. The next one is the equity tokens, right? So here, someone can have a token. They may not have equity ownership in it, but they still are going to own tokens that give them a percentage share in the properties and the projects that we have. So blockchain security, obviously everything in the blockchain is transparent, visible, and tradable on platforms. Accessibility, so you're going to be able to use or exchange it for Bitcoin, for USDT, USDC, etc. Right? The investor profiles, ideal for our group of investors who want to do small scale or medium scale fractional ownership. So someone might say, I want to put in this one, I want that much, and would be able to be part of the development that we're doing. And then the governance models we talked about is a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, which means voting and dividends and different things around ownership are all going to be based on the tokens that you own and you hold. So that's the model that we're planning to use. You can stop me if there's any questions. I know there's a lot here. Right? And so Bitcoin residency, right? And the equity partners, so landowners, and the model we basically use is a lot of people across the continent, they have land, but they really can't do anything with it because they don't have capital. So we make deals with them so that they get basically a percentage of the project that we work on, and we get to use the land. And that's the deals that we're working on now. Technical partners, so we want to be able to do basically the Bitcoin mining, the AI data centers as well that will kind of be modular, that we're able to use around the continent, containers, and they can be co-located with each of our Bitcoin residences as well for mining. And that mining, of course, brings revenue and uses electricity that's not being used if we have excess yield of electricity. Developers, right? So we're going to have developers working, professional developers, and we already have this network in place to manage construction and project delivery, ensure the technical and physical infrastructure needs and specifications. So they've built many projects, and we'll be working with professionals in that work in Europe and other areas as well. And then strategic investors, so we're going to fund the build and launch phases and providing capital. So we'll have larger investors, like we said, equity partners, and then we'll have token holders who may bring in smaller amounts of capital, but will still have ownership in it through the tokens.
Quick question:
Go ahead.
what are some of the developers at the moment, and if that's something that you know you're interested in, or I'm interested in, how would you get into that?
Yeah, so we are working with developers that have been working in Angola. We're working with developers who've also been working. We have some who are in Ghana. We're still finalizing on the specific locations where we're going to do work. So that is going to actually determine for us probably our focus. So we'll probably have to fly in or bring in some of the people as well.
Yeah.
But that is where we're starting right now.
Okay. And when you say like flying people, so the people that you're bringing in, they will be helping with the management and the project delivery, that kind of thing?
Yes, absolutely. And these are the people who are
Okay.
experienced in those areas. Exactly.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah. All right. And then strategic investors, as we talked about, which would bring in larger investment capital as well. Okay. And let me continue here. All right. And we'll have a broader meeting to kick this off for the core group. And I know you've expressed interest in it, so we'll have several others. So we'll bring that together hopefully in the next month or two, so we can actually kick off with specific projects that are potential ones, and probably do some initial voting as to what we're going to look into. Okay, so Bitcoin residency, tokens in action. The idea here is the tokens, it's not necessarily going to be 1,000, but that's where kind of where we started here for single development. And then we divide that up based on the capital that is put into the project. Diaspora investors are going to buy some number of tokens each. And then the holders are going to receive income for the rentals or Bitcoin mining. So that we kind of like a staking or a dividend basically coming off the token. And then also the value can appreciate over time. So let's say that property, that land appreciates in value, then the value of your tokens goes up and can be, exchanged later on. The model enables global participation in African development projects and maintaining blockchain transparency, because everything's on the blockchain, so everybody can see what's happening. Okay, so nobody's like, oh, what happened? Everybody knows exactly where their money is, where the tokens are, and what we're doing. And we will then have our periodic sessions with our core group to guide the investments in the projects. So our integrated investment approach in the Bitcoin residency model, Prime Africa Group is going to combine the core contributors, right? Developers, landowners, technical partners are going to be equity partners, and they're going to own large stakes in guiding direction of the project. For example, probably one we're looking at in Angola. And then in global investors, there's diaspora remote investors who are onboarded through the equity tokens, allowing them to own fractional shares, earn returns, participate in community governance through the DAO, Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And the hybrid model is going to maximize both of these local expertise and global capital, creating sustainable tech integrated living environments across Africa. So this is our vision, and we're going to start with a couple. Like we said, we'll work with a core group shortly to kind of finalize the plans on the ones that we are going to begin with. All right, so here's a comparison summary. Ownership, right? Equity partners have direct project shares into the project directly. Equity tokens are basically tokenized on the blockchain. Your contribution, if it's an equity partner, is land, capital, or tech or development, right? If you're an equity, if you're equity token, then it's cash or crypto investment, basically. It's going to be ideal for equity partners, for the core team and strategic partners. And then for the equity tokens, it's going to be ideal for people who are diaspora, small-scale global investors who want to come in as well. The transferability, so it's very limited shareholder agreements for equity partners, where for tokens, easily tradable on blockchain platforms. And then the governance, we have high decision-making power for equity partners. DAO-based voting rights may apply for if you're in a equity token. And the Prime Africa Group, we haven't launched the website yet, but I do have put it on Gamma. There is a Gamma website. You guys get the link when you get the PDF of this. You can click on that to review the presentation stuff as well.
Are there any other like African investment groups that you're looking at to say, okay, this is a model that this is an approach that they're taking, and these are the good and bad things from it? Or
yeah, we are. There are quite a few different ones that are kind of out there now. Some we know about, honestly, some we don't. We are talking to one that's based in South Africa currently, that is looking at tokenization. They may actually be a partner for us. There are a few others that are out there as well. Although I think that South Africa has a lot of the capital as far as Africa goes right now.
Right.
Just because, they're a little more connected financially. than other markets. But yeah, we are talking to actively and looking at other networks as well that are doing this in terms of investment partners.
Nice. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we got our community, and you all know about our community, our meetups here. We will be launching, as we said, the core group shortly, and then we will the investment. We are working on that. So I'm gonna come back in. Access to curated Bitcoin and blockchain opportunities. So we'll be working on launching that, and of course, continuing education. And the pilot projects and the core group, we hope to be launching. I think we're entering Q3, so before the end of this quarter, hopefully we'll be launching that with a kickoff session. And shaping our investment strategy. So that's where we are. Any other thoughts or questions, please let me know. We'll be launching more materials for you guys now. Just express and let me know if you have interest. And we also have a core team that's also working on this to put together the different investment options that we'll be looking into.
Hi, John. Sorry, I've got a quick question. Sorry, I apologize for being late. I was stuck in traffic. But yes, in terms of like the investment, do you know yet if there would be a minimum investment required, or what kind of, like different levels that we can invest at?
Yeah, so I think that's going to go back. Let me see if I can scroll here. That's going to go back to the two different types, right? So when we look at the tokenomics and the token investors, we talk about here 1,000 tokens, but the value that is based on the projects that we let's say that we end up doing a $500,000 project, right? So then that would determine the value of the tokens, right? So whatever it is, $500 a token. And then as we talk about, we will have to work out the tokenomics. So we don't have a final say on that, Marie Denise, yet, but we should have that as we do the launch later this quarter as to what the values of the tokens would be, the tokenomics.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep. Other questions?
Hi, John.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, the value of the tokens, will it be determined when you do an ICO, right?
Oh, sorry, what was it again?
I said the value of the tokens, will it be determined when you do an ICO? Are you going to do an ICO, like initial?
We are not going to do an ICO. This is going to be private. Well, I don't know. The term ICO, I guess, we use it in the last cycle a lot. It doesn't get used as much now. We will probably be using, like I said, a token partner, maybe the one based in South Africa, for this launch. So I would call it more of like an exchange offering, if we do that. And obviously the private group. So the private group would be kind of like the initial investors, and we may open it up to an exchange offering. I don't think we're going to be doing like a public ICO though.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. And that's just because we want to keep it within a group that's very much focused and committed to the mission, the vision that we're doing, versus kind of, opening it to the public and then, it could really get diluted a lot, I think. And if you have other thoughts on that, Malik, very interested to hear them, but that's the thinking right now.
John, just to ask a question. So, for example, let's say you have a core group of people who are interested in being part of this project, and is it going to be the same group throughout every single project that, let's say you complete a project, let's say 1,000 people, 100 people from the diaspora invest or contribute towards the project, is completed. Is it a case of completing it and selling it, completing it and then moving on to another project, or completing and getting a new pool of people to contribute to another project? What's the kind of roadmap or your thought behind execution on that?
Yeah, I think it's going to actually depend on which group people are in, right? So if you're an equity partner, it's more likely you're going to have a long-term stake in that project, right? Because we're going to have it, and you'll most likely stay engaged in that project. You've contributed land, capital, et cetera, and you're going to be involved there. If you're a developer, you might move on to the next one. On the other side, if you're an equity token holder, it may be a mid-term investment for you, right? And you may say, you know what? I've been in for a year or two and I want to cash this out. I feel like, I've gotten a pretty good return on what my investment at this point, and then I want to take that and cash it out. And for token holders, that would certainly be an option, right? So token holders are going to have a shorter to medium term span view on the projects, where the equity partners, I think, are going to have like a medium to long term view on each project. And our goal is to keep reinvesting, right? So we want to have one in Accra, have one in Kigali, have, one in Nairobi, have them in the different markets across the African continent. So the idea is that when we do start to profit from, the real estate, from the mining, the appreciation, we are able to reinvest that back in to the next projects, right? So that goal is to expand to, and effectively what these turn into, Isaac, is because they are all going to hopefully be mining and generating tokens, and mining Bitcoin as well. These effectively become banks, these pieces of property, because they are generating what will probably potentially be one of the most valuable assets in the world, over the next few years. So that is our goal. I mean, it almost creates its own financial banking system, as we roll out these real estate.
Cool.
Great question.
Any other questions from anyone or interest? Or does anyone see any risk, or because obviously it is in its infancy?
Yeah, I see a problem with the tokenization because I'm just trying to mirror it with what governments do when they need cash, when they need to raise capital for a project, right? They either issue a bond and then do a public offering, and then based on investors' demand for that particular bond, the price is established, right? So I was thinking of a similar model where you issue an ICO and then you can actually offer it privately, not publicly, maybe within a certain circle. And if the tokens are actually taken, then that would determine the value of those tokens. And then once the project matures, right, the tokens can be bond and the investors can get back their capital, right?
So Malik, are you suggesting then that you think it would be a good idea to have a public ICO type offering?
Yes, I think it would be a good idea to have that. Because, for example, let's say you're raising a $500,000 capital, and then you issue maybe 1 million tokens. So depending on the demand from the investors, that will determine the price of that token. Just thinking out loud, but the other way around, I'm still struggling to understand how you want to tokenize it without issuing an ICO.
Yeah, the tokenomics is one aspect, Malik. I think the other thing is the regulatory, at least for me, sitting in the US, and when I'm not in the US, I still have to deal with that aspect as well. And the regulatory aspect is that effectively what happens from at least a US regulatory framework, we'll see it's very positive now for crypto, but is that if you have basically a, kind of friends, family, accredited investor, well-known group, the restrictions are very low. You don't have to go through a lot of high hurdles in terms of, your offering. You can offer it without a problem. On the other hand, if you're offering it to the public, like an ICO, right? You're offering it to the public, there's a much higher standard because now the SEC and other people get involved, and they may, indicate, look, we have certain requirements for you to be able to offer this to the public. Now, obviously, if you have no contacts with the US, which a lot of people don't, then you don't have to really worry about that as much, even though the reach is quite a bit. But if you have contacts with the US, then that regulatory is a challenge, because if you try to make it a public offering, the standard is much higher.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like a well-connected closed network.
Absolutely. My assumption was it was going to be done outside the US, but you're right. If this is going to be done inside the US, then public offering will be more difficult.
Yeah. So that's the challenge there. Great question. I think I might have some follow-up for you, Mark, if you're open to having a little bit more discussion on this. So.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Other questions or comments or thoughts? Ultimately, our goal is to, have this adoption very strong throughout Africa, throughout diaspora, throughout the global South, where, there's a lot more financial freedom and inclusion that is generated by these projects and awareness. and of course, profit for us as investors in it. Yep, go ahead. Big dreams. You're on mute, big dreams.
Yeah, I want to ask that. So how can we participate in, like, if you want like participate in this tokenization?
Yep. So first thing is just expressing interest like you're doing now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put together the core group probably later this quarter for the initial meeting of the core group to discuss projects and the resources that we have in place. So we're working on that now with our network. And at that point, we will then give the opportunity for, being a contributor into how this moves forward. So first thing is what you said, just raise your hand and express your interest so that we know that you're interested. And then we will, loop you in as we do the kickoff for the core group later this quarter.
Okay, thank you.
You got it? Okay. Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
Yeah, I have a comment. Just wanted to say it's a great initiative. I've seen something like this in Dubai recently. They've tokenized properties, and it's sold out within 5 minutes, right?
Wow.
Let me see if I can find the link and I can just
Yeah, that'd be great.
copy paste it on the chat box.
Do you have, are you on our WhatsApp? Are you on our Telegram group?
Yes, I am.
Okay, yeah, if you want to paste it there, because this will close, I'll lose it. But if you can paste it there, that'd be great.
Oh, sure, I
Yeah.
will.
Thank you.
All right.
And you said it sold out how quickly?
Like in 5 minutes.
Okay.
In less than 5
That'd be
minutes.
nice. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Okay. Any other comments or thoughts or questions?
No, I was just trying to raise mine to show interest, but it's not working. So
Okay. Well, I hear you, so we've got you.
thank you.
Yeah. Great.
John, out of curiosity, anyway, would you sort of offer the invite as well to the people who are already on your platform, like the Wakanda and the MeetUp group? I think
Yes.
that'd
We
be a
will
good
plan, we
thing.
will plan to open it up to
Okay.
our group.
Yeah.
But then once the core group is formed, we will have discussions that are more within our core group.
Okay.
But yes, we will offer it to the MeetUp group.
Okay. Great. Thanks.
Good. Anything else anybody has?
No, I just want to say this is great, and thanks for taking the initiative on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're hoping it really generates some good wealth and moving into this new financial system for everybody. So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I'm optimistic.
Yeah, good. All right.
Thank you for this information. I was a little late, but thank you.
Yeah,
Do you have I want to read on it a little more. I know you were kind of going through the slides pretty quickly. Can you post again, or is it already in the Telegram? Just the
I will
whole
be sharing
project.
it after this. I will share it after this in the Telegram group I'll share the recording and the slides.
Okay, perfect. And then you can put me down. I am interested in learning more. Like I said, I'm still just trying to learn
Yeah.
everything. So I didn't know if I
Okay.
need to put it in a Telegram or just say it here.
No, I've got you. Perfect.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. Good. Lynette, is your ID in the Telegram the same or is it different, by the way? Is it your
Should be. I'm in the group. Let me
Okay?
make sure. You want to
If your
you
name is different in Telegram, so I wouldn't know what it is, just message me or let me know what it is now so I make sure that I don't miss you. Because some people use like a different name in the Telegram group. So
okay, let me see.
yeah.
Let me
No, it's
see.
still John. It's down as Lynette Graham, so it's the same.
It is okay, perfect. It's the same.
Okay.
All
Got
right,
it.
thanks, Isaac.
No problem.
Great. Okay, cool. All right. Any other questions or thoughts or anything else? We got big dreams coming back in the room here. Yeah, so we're really excited about this. We're hoping this is really going to be kind of a game changer, make a big difference for Africa diaspora and bring a lot of economic prosperity with it. So we're looking forward to it, and looking forward to sharing updates with you guys as we proceed with this over the next few quarters here. So good. All right, that's all I've got for this one. We'll open it to general Q&A. If anybody has questions, not only on this, but on anything else, feel free to do that. Anything Isaac shared, anything about the markets we had at the beginning, next meetup, anything else, and then we'll be looking forward to the next one, which I think we're going to probably meet earlier in the day next time on August. Everybody's good there. Any questions or anything like that else?
No, just thank you for the initiative, John. That is wonderful. There's so much. Can I ask you something? Is this going to be anything like similar, like the metaverse that we see when people buy sort of, I mean, these are real lands.
Real land,
Obviously,
yes.
on the metaverse is kind of, so, but people are still buying and it's still fascinating and it's really difficult actually to get the plots because they're really expensive. Interestingly enough. So it would be interesting to see like what else would we be able to rent those lands or do anything like once we own them, or I don't
Yeah.
know, to do some kind of, yeah.
So you're saying kind of connecting the real lands to the
Yeah.
metaverse? Yeah, that's certainly a possibility.
Hmm.
Sure.
All right. Thank you.
Interesting idea. Good. Other questions on anything that we've went through today? Myself, Isaac, the markets, anything else?
Just to
Good.
thank everyone for their contribution. So it's been good and engaging as per usual.
Yeah, very good, guys. Thanks everyone for coming out. I know that it's a little bit late for some of you guys, so we appreciate that too. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. I'll be sharing hopefully the materials later this evening, my time, or the morning for some of you. So we'll have it all shared out, and then we'll get ready for the next sessions on this, and of course our next general meetup as well. So thanks, Isaac. Thanks everybody for joining, and you guys have a great rest of your day or night. Depending where you are.
Thank you.
All right, take care,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye-bye.
All right, take care.
Everyone.
Isaac, are you good on for August back to our
Yep. What date are we looking at?
let's see. I think we're probably going to be looking most likely at maybe the 9th, maybe? The 9th?
One second.
We did 9th through the 16th, I guess.
Just gonna end the last person now. Right. August 9th of August. What day is? All right, let me have a look. Yeah, what time are you thinking?
I'm thinking doing the earlier times. I think we'll get more people at the 10
Back
a.m.
to normal time.
Yeah. Are you guys having a daylight savings time change again, or it's the same? No, you're not having the same
No,
time.
that won't be till October.
Okay. So it'll be 3 o'clock. That'd be 3 p.m. UK.
Yeah. Is that the earliest we can do on that day?
I could probably go for 9 a.m. which would be like 2. I don't want to go a lot earlier than that because East Coast in the US or West Coast in the US, that's still like 6 in the morning, whatever.
6. All right, cool. Yeah. All right, let's go for that then.
Do you want to go for the 9 a.m.?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we'll do 9 a.m. on the 9th.
Yeah. I may only be able to do about an hour on that one.
Okay.
And I might speak to
The
Malik.
16th? Do you prefer the 16th or is the 9th good?
16th. No, the 9th. 9th is better than the 16th.
Okay, so 9th, and then you're saying 9 a.m. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's give that a try, which will be
Cool.
2 p.m.
What I'll see as well, I'll see if Malik, the one that was on a webinar with us, can do a session on just the economics, the financial banking stuff as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, we should have somebody from Ghana who's doing they have like a community BitFiassi, and they should be just presenting in August as well on they're trying to get people more like learning about Bitcoin and using it in the economy and
Yeah.
like youth and women. So they should be presenting as well. But yeah, that'd be great to have a link there also.
Cool. Oh, sorry. Let me stop recording.
Got it. So recording.